Hello, everyone. Welcome to Community Spotlight. Today's topic is what is net metering and how will this impact your energy bill? My spotlight today is with Walter Einhart, and this is a subject that a lot of people want to know about. With energy crisis happening, everyone's interested in electric everything, electric cars, how to store energy from solar. Is it worth it? Do I make money? How long does it take to recover my investment? So all these questions. So we thought we'd put on an educational program today. And I'd like to welcome our guest, Walter Einhart. Walter, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks, Michael. Excited to be here and really excited to talk a little bit about solar and the current state of net metering arrangement.
Yeah, so that's an opening question. So net metering, what is it? I mean, prior to talking to you, I really didn't know what net metering was. I kind of knew what how it works, but I didn't know the title of it. What is net metering?
Yeah, so net metering is actually a program that allows solar customers to receive a credit on their electric bills when their solar systems generate more energy than the home can use. So all solar systems are connected to a public utility power grid. And in this case, in Santa Barbara, it would be Southern California Edison. And surplus power is transferred onto the grid, allowing customers to sell that surplus power, which will be used to offset the future cost of electricity drawn back from the grid. So to better understand net metering, you kind of need to understand how solar works. So each solar panel has a series of photovoltaic cells, and they look something like this. So your panels are going to be made up of these cells. And what happens is sunlight hits the cells during daylight hours, and immediately you have created a DC current. But your home needs AC current to operate. So microinverters on the panels will convert that DC into AC so it's usable in your home. The energy is measured in kilowatt hours. So for an example, if you had a 100-watt light bulb, it would run for 10 hours using 1 kilowatt hour. So that's just a kind of an idea to give you a measure of that electricity. During the day, most consumers produce way more kilowatt hours than they need. So this extra energy is then stored and in essence sold back to the utility for future use. Then later at night, when there is no sunlight for your system to utilize to generate electricity, customers then pull back energy from the grid. So that's net metering. And net metering laws are being changed. And the current debate, though, is at what cost per kilowatt hour will Edison exchange or buy and sell back energy with homeowners. So net metering 2.0, which is the current arrangement, allows for a fairly favorable exchange cost of that surplus energy. Yet 3.0 is proposing a much less favorable exchange cost for homeowners, and that will be considerably more expensive for people that have solar. So Edison charges different rates at different times during the day, so the exchange rate is not really cut and dry, but Edison is pushing to credit consumers less for the energy that they produce, and essentially the power companies also want to charge solar customers more for the kilowatt hours that they use at night. In addition to this exchange rate that's being debated, they're also proposing in net metering 3 a solar tax, actually, of about $450 per year for the average homeowner. And these changes are getting a lot of pushback from the solar industry and are really a cause of great debate right now. And the solar industries are aware, and the power grid, that the current net metering 2.0 arrangement needs to change. So everybody agrees on that. They just don't agree on the specifics of those changes. And from the perspective of the solar industry, without a balanced pro-consumer decision on a new net metering program, it could drastically reduce the bill savings for consumers going solar in California. It'll also slow the progress in the fight against climate change and put thousands of jobs at risk. So our economy, environment, our families, we all benefit from clean energy. So we should be working to expand rooftop solar throughout California, not actively working against it to reduce it.
So Walter, one of the things that I've heard is this idea of the Tesla battery, this big thing that you have to mount in your house somewhere, and it's storing that energy during the day. So is net metering, when you say you push it back to the grid, are you pushing that back in real time to the grid, or are you storing that energy and then pushing the stored energy back? How does that work?
Yeah, it just kind of depends. Most homeowners don't actually have batteries at this point. So they'll just be pushing it in real time right back to the grid. But it creates a whole nother scenario if you have a battery because you create a closed loop. And the real benefit of a battery is in the case of a power outage, you'd be able to still power your home with the battery because it does create that closed loop. Whereas if you have solar and there's a power outage, you'll be cut off just like everybody else because it's a safety issue. They can't have live wires. So batteries, they play into net metering in the sense that you're able to use power from your stored battery at night rather than pushing that back to the grid. So there is no concern about an exchange rate. But at this point, most homeowners don't have batteries.
Okay, that's interesting because I thought that that was one of the most expensive parts of putting in a solar system is how do you store that energy. So what does it cost to set up a net metering system on your house?
Yeah, so net metering itself doesn't cost anything for homeowners. It's really just the process of working with the utility. And if you want to look at it on kind of a simple level, like the utility is kind of your battery because they're storing the energy for you. It's also not that cut and dry. But the energy in kilowatt hours that homeowners use from the grid when their systems aren't producing electricity does cost. So it's the actual energy that you're paying for. And that cost is a major point of contention in the proposed changes to the current net metering 2.0 agreement.
All right. So are there any other tax credits or incentives that people can take advantage of if they want to upgrade maybe a current system or get a new solar system?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a solar investment tax credit, which is known as the ITC, which provides currently a 26% federal tax credit for new solar systems that are installed. And it also will cover a part of your roof if you replace your roof at the time you install the solar. So you'll get a portion of that back in the tax credit. So that's an incredibly important program. And that's actually scheduled to phase out in 2024. If Congress doesn't act soon, that's going to go away. But there's also statewide property tax exemptions for solar installations, which is also set to phase out in 2024. And then lastly, California has a self-generating incentive program, SGIP, which is really an incentive for installing new batteries, which you mentioned earlier. So there's an extra incentive for the folks that end up getting a battery as well in addition to their new solar system.
So, Walter, with all these tax credits, I know that we're always thinking of solar as an investment, something that you get a return on. It's not just an expense and you're doing something good for the environment. So with all these tax credits and incentives that are out there right now, for the average home that has, I don't know, 2,000 square feet, 1,500 square feet, whatever the average size home is, how long does it take to normally recover the cost of your investment?
Yeah, so I mean that really depends. It's homeowner to homeowner. The average homeowner, I would say 7 to 10 years. They'll recoup the cost of the investment when it's offset from not getting their electric bill any longer. But that all depends. It depends on the energy usage in the home, the size of the solar system, and those types of factors.
Mm-hmm. It was interesting. I was watching a YouTube video on solar, and this guy was selling his home, and what he did is he said he was doing this analysis. What was the total net cost or gain of having his solar system? And he was able to get $30,000 more when he sold his home because he had solar. And I thought that was pretty interesting that because you think of it, a 7-year life, 7 to 10-year return on investment. You think, well, what happens if I move in 5 years? Does that mean I've just lost, 2 to 5 years of my investment? And what this guy was saying is absolutely not, that there's a premium value for anyone that has any kind of solar program and energy management on their property. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah. Absolutely. Matter of fact, I believe it was a study done by Zillow in 2020 that said that solar homeowners that install solar on their home, when they go to sell it, the property value is raised by about 5%. So yeah, definitely solar is an investment that adds value to your home for sure and saves you money.
Just in kind of in closing, because these are the questions I wanted to ask you. Is there anything else that you feel is kind of educational that would help people make that decision, whether or not solar is right for them or how net metering works?
Yeah, I would add a couple things. One, net metering is regulated at the state level. So California is a state that has net metering, and here in California, it's the California Public Utilities Commission that that has regulated net metering. And in addition to that, net metering laws have changed once so far, and that was back in 2015. So the program was required to revisit the arrangement after a certain point of the grid was solar powered. So we're now in that period, and the NEM 3.0 changes are scheduled to be agreed upon later this year. So I would encourage people to reach out to their representatives and write emails or call and really advocate for the net metering 3.0 changes that the solar industry are encouraging. But in addition to that, any homeowner that has an electric bill usually can benefit from solar. In most cases, we're able to completely eliminate that electric bill just down to a connection charge, which is usually about $8 to $12. And then their solar system powers their home completely. So every case is different. Every homeowner is different. So what we like to do is come in, look at the electric bills, assess 12 months of energy usage, take into account things like square footage, how many people are in the home, do they plan to add an electric car? Because to charge an electric car in the home takes about 0.3 kilowatt hours per mile. So if you're driving 12,000 miles a year, you're going to need a system that puts out an extra 3,600 kilowatt hours of energy to charge that car. So yeah, every situation is different, but in almost every case, homeowners can benefit from solar. And we do a thorough analysis. We do an Aurora shade report, which shows how much sunlight exposure they have throughout the year, 24/7. And it allows us to place the panels in the most efficient locations so the homeowners get the maximum return on investment.
Excellent. So, Walter, if anyone does have any questions about the discussion that we're having today, what is net metering? How does solar work in the home? What's the return on investment? If they have any further questions, how would they be able to reach out and contact you?
Absolutely. They can reach me on my email, which is waltere@augustruufing.com. My cell phone is 805-896-6136. And we can also be reached on www.augustruufing.com. And I'm happy to discuss with anybody who's even just remotely considering solar. That would be something I'm totally open to. Anyone can reach out, and I'm happy to discuss.
Walter, thank you again for coming on the program today. Community Spotlight with Michael Kramer. And until our next program, thank you, audience, for watching. I hope this was educational and inspiring. That's the purpose of this program. We'll see you next time.